Very good. You were live. Well, hello there. My name is Ty Kemi. It's December the 11th here in sunny New Zealand, or maybe it's still the 10th where most likely everybody else is. So wherever you are in the world, welcome to our 27th recurring TELx Council meeting. Just the usual quick intro. The TELx Council is a local governance organisation within the wider Telcoin Association and has the authority over and duties towards TELx operational rules, system health and social well-being. The TELx Council accepts, develops and votes on TELx improvement proposals, also known as TELx IPs, which alter or introduce new elements to TELx. The TELx Council also has the mandate to alter TELx harvesting rules and is responsible for representing the general interests of and informing the community in matters pertaining to TELx. These bi-weekly meetings provide several critical functions to our governance. They help provide transparency to our community and give structure to our forum, provide the authors of TELx IPs the ability to present their proposals to the council and community, and allow council members and community to review, debate and refine these proposals to eventually reach a consensus and then elevate a proposal to an approval vote through Snapshot. These meetings also provide a medium for regular TELx ecosystem updates, ensure consistent communication between council members and the community, and allow the community to directly engage in Q&A with the council members. In summary, we carry out the following required duties: to introduce, alter and enforce TELx operational rules, to plan, finance and coordinate the implementation of improvements to the TELx system and facilitate the maintenance and construction of the TELx website, to regulate the flow of TELx issuance through TELx and help create new liquidity pools in order to support the wider TEL ecosystem so TEL can be harvested by all liquidity miners, and finally to inform liquidity miners in the wider TEL community of the activities and outcomes related to TELx and results from any snapshot votes. Participation in these snapshot votes are a mandatory requirement for TELx council members, and in order for a proposal to move forward, there needs to be a 5 out of 6 majority vote, and all 6 members must vote within 7 days from the start date of the proposal being uploaded to Snapshot. So for today's meeting, I'll be hosting, and we'll now have a short recap from our last meeting. So over to you, Mike, if you've got that there.
Sure, yeah. Last meeting, we discussed a few things, primarily the technical discussions around Uniswap V4 implementation with the reward structure that is currently allocated to those pools, and introduced a claim function onto the website. We also discussed the UI improvements to the TELx website and progress on the TELx University. And then we briefly sort of, at least addressed, the budget and budget planning for 2026, and then potential collaboration with Merkle or other platforms to help with incentivization going forward. And then we sort of highlighted also the celebratory tone around the Nebraska Digital Asset Banking Charter, and I think that about sums up the recap.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Mike. So really on the agenda for this morning, we have an item, Uniswap V4 Pools. We've got the TELx website as the second item, the TELx University update as the third, and a general discussion on the eXYZ stablecoin kind of cash provision on these pools, because that links back to the first item, the Uniswap V4 pools. They're working as we specified them. They are new, just to remind everybody, so it is an evolving arena that we're playing in, but there seems to be some kind of, not confusion, but almost a disappointment from some of the community that the pools aren't working well enough for the incentives structure that we've got. So we are in the process, and we're coming to the final stages of finalising a summary of all the rules that govern how incentives are played out. But I'd like to open it up really to the panel for a general discussion on how they see the V4 pools performing, evolving, and a general discussion on how we move forward in this area. So, anybody like to say anything? Mike, I know you were disappointed, let's say, with the way the stablecoin pool and base was performing.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I just feel like we had good intentions by launching concentrated liquidity pools in V4 and the hook and all these things. I think that it's actually an okay working system, but I don't think that it's certainly not the ease of use and the sort of degree of difficulty in understanding incentives and what you could expect to receive as an incentive based upon the amount of dollars, the dollar value that you are putting into a pool. There's a lot of misalignment, and there's lots of, sort of hyper intelligent liquidity providers that have lots of time and resources to click lots of buttons every day, that can certainly find that they get an outsized share of incentives without necessarily really putting more capital at risk. And so I don't know that that is sort of along the lines of how I feel personally that TELx benefits community members, because 95% of community members are going to either become frustrated and exit, and we will actually hurt our total liquidity, or they won't ever get into enter them in the first place because they don't really have any idea of what they could expect to get as a return. So I think that we need to make some adjustments, and I'm definitely willing to say I'm willing to hear any potential solutions on what people are thinking, or if maybe I'm out left field on this one and I just have a difference of opinion with the general community.
Yeah, okay. I know it's taken me a wee while to kind of get my head around the impact that providing liquidity via, say, Uniswap has. Boo's raised his hand, so I'll come to Boo in a minute. But from what I've gathered over the last wee while playing with these pools, is unlike V2, where you could look at total liquidity, you could look at your liquidity that you were adding, you knew you were providing a set percentage of that liquidity into that liquidity pool, and therefore you could determine, all things being equal, the share of rewards you would get based on a simple percentage of your liquidity against total liquidity. V4s blow that out of the water, because it's impossible, I think, to estimate your rewards, because the pool is moving with variables that you have no control over and can't estimate in the future, i.e. the number of participants at a certain tick and the size of trades that go through at the extreme limits of your range, which may have knocked other people's ranges out of liquidity. And therefore your share, your percentage share of the effective liquidity at any point in time can't be determined. And also you get paid as a share of fees, and so you cannot predetermine the size of trades that go through at any particular tick point, which may or may not be in your range. So it's comes down to really a matter of luck as to what percentage share of fees you get at any point in time with the way the market moves, price points and sizes of trades, both of which are indeterminate when you open a position. And when you open a position, you're saying, I'm providing liquidity within this range. And so that's set at the point you open the position, and then it's almost in the lap of the gods as to what incentives you'll get as the market moves and the trades happen through Uniswap or not, because the price can move because somebody did a major buy on KuCoin, for instance, and that shifted the price without any fees coming your way at all. So you can be in the market for a long time without getting any fees, and the market's moving quite rapidly backwards and forwards at different price points, so different ticks within your range. So it's a very difficult thing to estimate, and I think that took me a wee while to really accept that you can't estimate what your return will be by putting liquidity in a range on a V4 pool. But that's a personal thing. Boo, would you like to jump in now?
Yeah, just a brief statement. I mean, there's three problems that I can see at the moment. The first thing is, compared with what we were used to with Balancer V2, it's difficult. Even with the best intentions, you have these ideas of how many ticks or what your lower and upper tick range will be. By the time positions are moving, you can easily go out of range, and you've got you've got 24 hours or a certain number of blocks where you can't touch your position again, potentially, if you wanted to. The second problem is the number of rules, and I don't know if you want to go into those a little bit later, Ty. I'll leave that up to you, but there's certain rules to do with a kind of flowchart effect of what you're allowed to do without losing access to your rewards for the entire week. And the third point, just as you said, is not predictable. You put everything in your positions, but you cannot state at the end of the period exactly how much you're going to earn. So I think we need to probably give it a couple of weeks at least, and then scratch our heads to see what changes we should make, whether we make changes to the pools themselves or some of the variable factors that's in our control that the developers gave us access to. So that's my 3 points.
Okay, thanks, Boo. Yeah, it's taken us a long and arduous route to get to the position we're in, and I still don't think we're there yet. So Andrew, you've got your hand up. Hi, buddy.
Hey guys, how we doing? I think I share a lot of the same sentiments. I think we, probably bit off too much more than we can chew initially when we kind of decided to push forward with this. I think we, went a little bit too fast with maybe not understanding everything fully, which is why we're having these challenges with the rewards, the script, all that kind of stuff. But I think for me, like my philosophy in life is to, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, right? So like these Uniswap V4 pools are great for concentrated liquidity. They're great for, slippage rates being lower, which obviously facilitates more swaps, which brings in more people, and it creates like that flywheel effect, right? But like, I think we got to take a step back and bring it back to basics, right? To, Boo's point, V2 in Balancer is very different from V4 and Uniswap. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit too with other options that we have out there that we've seen. Like to me, like those Balancer V3 clam pools, like to me, like that is like the best of both worlds. Where, and if for those of you who aren't aware of them all, I'll give it just a quick brief description of it. But it's basically providing liquidity into a pool similar to a V2 Balancer. But what happens is it functions in a way like a V4 pool, where the entirety of the liquidity in that pool is concentrated within a range, in a band of, say plus, 5 or 10% plus or minus. And then as the pool and the ratio between those assets shift, the pool shifts with it, but not just some positions, all positions. right? So then we don't have to worry about this active management where I need to be on top of, managing 15 different positions and making sure that I'm in range here and there, this, that, whatever, making sure that I'm not adjusting things within a 24-hour span on each individual, range. And then on top of that too, not having to manage that aspect of it, we also get the benefits of having that concentrated liquidity, which is providing that lower level of slippage, right? So to me, like, that balances well the best of both worlds, in my opinion. The challenge right now with that particular, protocol and those particular HIPAA pools is they're not available on Polygon. So is that, maybe something that we should leverage or try to push a little bit more into the new year, having a more, deeper conversation, a broader partnership with Balancer to see if we can, work on getting Polygon integrated. Like, eventually we're going to want to shift a lot of this liquidity as well to the Telcoin network once that's up and running too, because obviously we're incentivized to push as much as we can to our native network, but also knowing that we're going to be using Base and Polygon and potentially BNB and ETH and all these other chains, and having that Axelar bridge as well. But I think we just got to simplify things. Like, for me, if we're going to be able to get developers to build an API and bring it into TELx through their mobile devices, we got to make this as simple as possible. You're not going to get grandma and grandpa building APIs and all this kind of stuff to track and monitor all these different positions. They're not going to understand concentrated liquidity. They're not going to understand V4 pools. Like, if we want to push this out to the masses, the retail institutions, even at that point, like, they don't have that knowledge base. Like, I've been involved in crypto since 2017, and I had a hard time, getting up to speed with what's going on with V4 stuff, right? So if we're having challenges as a council, like, we almost got to take a step back and I think take a broader approach and dumb things down a little bit so that it's easier and we can lower that barrier for entry. Right. So what we're saying here, like, I agree with what everybody's saying. But let's leave things as it is for the next couple of weeks. Let's take January, really evaluate, with numbers and data. I'll be honest, I've been a little bit busy with work too. Like, I want to take some time and take all the scripts, build it out and kind of analyze it a little bit more. I'll try to do that over the holidays while I have some free time, and then maybe we can review that in January, but then make some concrete decisions on what we're looking to do, right? So I think we just got to have a bigger approach to it, like a higher level approach on how we can simplify things and distribute the access and lower the barrier for entry for a non-crypto native person, because there's going to be people that are going to want to get involved with, V4, but it's not the masses, in my opinion. So yeah. I've been on a little bit of a rant here, but I know we have a few hands up. So,
all right, well, take a breath. Eric's had his hand up a couple of times, so if we get Eric on the stage, and then Derek, I see you've got your hand up as well. So let's take Eric first, since he's our new council member as well. Hi, Eric. You're on mute. You're on mute. There you go.
Hello. Hi there. Yeah. Derek was before me, but I think he doesn't mind. I'll keep
nope, go for it, buddy. No, it's okay. No, this is right. Again, this is your guys' council. I just as a user of the pool, I have some comments. So you guys go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm like the newcomer here, which gives me kind of an eye that's maybe different from from all you guys that are already building this for some time now. I basically completely agree with what Andrew just said. I've been looking at the pools and what you guys built. It's a lot. I did write a sort of an internal document. I don't know if some people saw it, but it basically sums up what Andrew also says, that for me, I've been a DeFi user since 2019, basically the start of DeFi, Compound, everything. I think regarding the APY, that it can be possible to show some historical APY for basically, well, you can take basically three ranges. I think QuickSwap is also doing this. personally, I love the Kyberswap UI. I'm a big fan of Kyberswap for all these years. They also use a V4 hook, and they basically show an historical APY. I've tried it out for the past 6 months, and it's pretty spot on. So I don't know exactly how they do it. They show they differentiate between fees and also incentives. So this might be a thing for APY to look at it. I think if you want to attract people, your grandma, your grandpa, and those kind of users, this is the first thing they will need to. This is basically the first thing that you look at, whether it's completely correct, not as much correct, or it doesn't matter that much. Historical APY can be done, I think. It is tough on V4 pools, and what I'm I don't want to say missing, but missing in my vision, if I look at what you guys built, is the differentiation between the users that we're attracting. You always got two sides. You got the liquidity providers, and you got the swappers that want deeper liquidity, the so-called flywheel. I completely agree with Andrew to keep it KISS. Also to focus on the mainnet from Telcoin, I think, which basically will be the eXYZ pools, I think. You're talking about stables, and depending on the kind of users that you want to attract, incentivization for me is only the means to an end. So it is for us to decide, I think, who we want to attract, and based on that, what kind of protocol you want to build out or build on. Thinking we got now Uniswap, but thinking Curve. I personally love Fluid. And also market that together. So you get an aligned marketing campaign or something with incentives that is targeting the users that we actually want. So I think it's good to take a high overview for a couple of weeks or a month to to really look what we want in the future and who we're targeting. So this is my this is my view from a newcomer so far.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Yeah, interesting points, and certainly we're coming up to the Christmas period, and so it's going to be early in the new year. But I think over that time, we as a council need to review and think carefully about how we go into the next year with these pools. Derek, you've been very patient, mate. Thanks.
No problem. So again, I'm as somebody that just participates in the pools, and I knew nothing and started to do a ton of reading on V4. And I just started looking at some other protocols and some other things. And I just had I went down the rabbit hole this past weekend. I just shared some of it to Andrew. But I just had some thoughts. One, I think the design for its intention, which is what you all set out to do with the intention, I think it's working well. I just went to Uniswap and did a base pool just transaction just to see of $200. The slippage is much, much, much less than it was a month or two ago because of the concentrated liquidity that V4 gives. I think that's a huge bonus. So I know you guys are really hard on yourselves, and I understand why, but I think you've met one of your goals, which I think is important to highlight. So I just wanted to point that out. That's one. Two, yes, to Eric's point, you absolutely can do a roundabout way to determine historical returns. Over the weekend, I built a subgraph and plotted out some stuff with the different epochs, meaning each week period. And you can start to develop if you spend the time, a pretty clear picture of how the pool and the users in the pool perform, how you've performed over a certain amount of time, and you can give averages of returns if you really wanted to by just averaging the fee, obviously the rewards claims or the trading claims that through Uniswap, right, and then also the fee payout. There's a way that I built a rudimentary one and it works semi okay, but there's a way to do that. I guess the question I would really have is that number is really based on how, quote, good the people are at playing the game, I suppose, end quote. Because it really is a competition between people for where they're and you know, and a gamble, or not gamble, a guess of where the liquidity is going. So I think you all made some really good points with that. But the one thing I think would be helpful for you all, regardless of direction, would be really to maybe, well, two things. One would be for the V4 pools, building out a subgraph and having your own ability to audit the results when the epochs run and the rewards run, rather than, you know, having to wait for Marcus to dig in or another dev. It'd be very easy to build a subgraph. I did it in a weekend. Build a subgraph and compare your results, and it's within a certain delta. You know that there's nothing broken and that everything's correct. Since the code's been verified, we know it works. Just as a checks and balances. Again, nothing official, but helps give the council a little bit more legs to have conversations. And you can check individual positions. You could, you know, there's many things you could do, and just in a neat and clean UI. So that was just a thought to give you all some tools. And the second was to the point of the types of pools. I also think V4 has been a focus for such a long time. And I really like kind of the points that were made of, like, there's multiple pools and types. V4, TEL, and ETH, and managing that position is much more difficult than managing one of the stablecoin positions in V4, which is still more difficult than managing, you know, a TEL USDC balancer V2 pool, right? So I think it's great. Another thing to highlight is that there's all these different pools for different varying skill levels or interests. And I think that would be a really interesting thing to maybe look at is you guys have done a great job with V4 and to Andrew's point, maybe you look at these V3 pools as kind of that intermediate step that's easier for people to understand. Because most people that are new to crypto, when they think staking, they think, oh, I just go on a website, attach my wallet, and I throw in an amount and hit stake, and that's all I do. And maybe having something that simple is beneficial. I don't know. But I do think that you all deserve, as somebody that was looking at the base pools really heavily when we saw that Coinbase had that you all, the slippage was bad there for a while. And I think it's much better than it was with this concentrated liquidity. And if you look at the graphs, the amount of volume and the amount of TVL continues to go up. So I think, I know we're all looking at a really short time frame, but I really think the data looks good. And I just encourage, maybe if you want to really work on the deltas, is mess with the weightings, mess with your active and passive weightings and your JIT weightings. And, you know, that way would smooth that kind of distribution out. So,
well, we do have,
that's all.
Thanks, Derek. We do have some analytical tools that we can play with now. We're building up the data on these hooks, which I think, realistically, the hooks have only been running for 4 weeks, possibly. We're into our 5th week now on rewards on the hooks. So yeah, we still have a lot of work to do. I'd like it to try and settle down a little bit, and that's why I'm proposing this rather than maybe 2 weeks. Give it a couple of months just to see. But I take all your points. I'd love to be able. I see there's a few comments coming in about who knows how to build a subgraph. I'd love to know how to build a subgraph, but that's just me. And certainly, I think taking a step back and actually almost coming back to basics and saying, you know, who's our target market? Who are we trying to incentivize here? What benefits to the TEL ecosystem are we providing? Where is TEL actually going? It seems to be moving more into the stablecoin pool arena rather than the swap arena. So, you know, we need to bring that into account. So I do think we need to offline, not in our meetings here, but certainly as a council, we need to set up a working group or a separate meeting just to thrash out and brainstorm these fundamentals as to where we want the direction of TELx to go. And obviously the budget comes into play, because it did cost us a lot to get to where we are with the number of audits and the dev team costs as well. But I'm certainly not off the camp where we want to throw good money after bad. But let's just kind of take a breath, I think, and get our ideas together consistently as a council, and get everybody kind of focusing on these fundamental questions that I mentioned. Mike, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah. So, I think some of this will be will be more useful, these conversations, as we can unfold or unpack kind of the platforms that we want to consider if we want to make any changes. Also, there's going to be, some minted eXYZ in the not too distant future, across multiple chains, et cetera. And that's going to be, so we'll sort of have, and those are going to be pooled up as well versus USDC and USDT perhaps, but probably most likely USDC across multiple chains. And so the amount of liquidity in eXYZ that is, and like TVL, if you will, if you look at our sort of TELx ecosphere, which is like $6 million, $7 million in value, that the eXYZ is going to far surpass that in the not too distant future. And so those will be, curve pools with EUSD and all these other things. And so we'll have these pools to look at, and because they'll actually have live liquidity that's working and functioning and being used. So as far as the digital cash stuff, a lot of that is not going to be really decided by the guys sitting in this meeting. It's going to be sort of, it's going to be, I'm presenting. Oh, no, I didn't.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
One all psychedelic here.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what am I doing? Anyway, I think but in the meantime, it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep spinning our wheels on digital cash and eXYZ, but this sort of V4 USDC EMXN pool is largely has been an experiment, and I think it will certainly be, that one in particular will certainly be replaced, and so incentives won't really matter, but on that for the purpose of this council meeting. But I do think that it's important to look forward and stay ahead of the curve, seeing how the pools that most of our liquidity in currently are not even supported by Balancer. So we do have to sort of come up with the times one way or the other.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point there, Mike, though, as well, about the incentives, because, we are, as a council, responsible for a valuable resource, which is the TEL issuance to incentivize liquidity providers. And we shouldn't be wasting that on pools that are not really helping the ecosystem deliver the full benefit. And so, every month, I think there's approximately just over 2 million TEL per pool allocated. So that's, what is that? 12 million a month, 12 million TEL a month going out as rewards. And if that's not really developing or hitting the people that it should be hitting to incentivize the benefits to the ecosystem, then, we need to take that into account as well. Let's not just waste valuable TEL.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any volume on the EMXN pool at the moment, and so I understand incentivizing that at the moment doesn't really make sense. We're kind of sort of planning for the future, and we're thinking, okay, this is going to be a live corridor, and eXYZ won't be quite live yet, so we'll do a USDC EMXN pool. But now we're just moments, very close to EUSD being live, so the USDC EMXN pool suddenly becomes irrelevant, right? So the incentives on that pool should be ultimately will be deprecated very shortly if we're doing it right,
Draft up we need a proposal, though. We need to go down a formal kind of.
We just have to have we have to have an idea of what we want to do. And I don't think we need to be putting that much TEL into a stablecoin pool. That you know, it's over incentivized. If anything, we could incentivize where the most of our volume is right now is on Ethereum, you know, but it's I don't know if we want to do that. It's a different sort of
Yeah.
problem.
All right. Well, that's certainly, I mean, we're not going to solve all these problems here this morning or this evening. So unless anybody's got anything else to say, I'd propose moving on to the next item. But I think with the objective of us as a council either having discussion threads in Slack or having some workshop meetings outside of the bi-weekly council meetings where we thrash out these ideas and get a clear direction from our own point of view. Does that seem sensible, guys?
Yeah, I think we should probably try to get like almost like a weekly internal call just for us going, at least over the next couple months while we evaluate what's going on with V4. Right. Like I hear what you're saying, Mike, too, but like at the same time, like we need to have communication with, you know, the bank to understand when our remittance corridor is going to be open. To Ty's point, we got
absolutely. You know, the guys are out there meeting about this very issue this week. You know, and so I think that between, you know, we got the holidays coming up and whatnot. We don't have another scheduled meeting for 3 weeks, but I think sometime before that next meeting, we're going to want to put our heads together. So I think we should do something next week.
Yeah, let's try to get something scheduled with Paul, and like I'd love to just pick his brain and just the overall strategy with, again, the bank, the remittances, and all that kind of stuff. Because again, to your point, like that's going to be a pretty pivotal thing for us to kind of incentivize, you know, what we're doing with any potential digital cash pools. But you know, maybe we have different strategies on how we do it with digital cash versus, you know, assets, and it's more swapping than remittance stuff. But yeah, I think we're all along the same lines where we need to have a higher level approach, longer term thinking, be a little bit more prepared when we're doing this kind of stuff, and roll it out properly the first time, do all the checks and balances prior to moving forward. But again, this is a learning curve, I think, for everybody. Like for me personally, I know this whole V4 thing has been, you know, not the most smoothest transition, but it's a learning experience, I think, for all of us, which is good.
Derek, you seem to be presenting stuff. I don't know if you mean to or whether you've got.
Yeah, I was just showing pools. That's all.
He's having fun.
Of no,
none of you all are on camera, so I'm trying to keep people entertained.
Yeah, no. On that one you have on the screen right now, that one subgraph hasn't been updated since November 25th. I know.
Yeah, I saw that too.
On a couple of them, and so we need to ping Khalil about that.
Yeah, I think there's a
transition to the TELx UI UX update conversation on the agenda.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. Derek, maybe you can just keep your screen up there.
Sure. Yeah,
and
no problem.
we'll move on to the next item, which is the TELx website. Since you've got the TELx website up there, and we can just kind of go through some of the latest improvements to it. I don't think Khalil is actually online, and I know we have been talking about improvements to the way some of the information is presented in terms of the pool information and all the old pools that are archived, but the positions are still open, so they're still coming up, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of information. So maybe you, if I could ask you to just run through some of the improvements or some of the changes that we've made. Since you've got that there.
Yeah, I talked to Khalil a little bit, and I've been watching Andrew, and I'll let Andrew pop in. Andrew, if you would like, I can drive if you want to, or I'd be happy to go through some of the stuff, but I know you've been really involved with that. You just tell me how you want to do it.
No, go ahead. Like, you've got it up, so it's probably easier for you to walk through.
Okay.
Like, I know we've kind of listed what the changes were that we kind of like. A lot of it is like smaller stuff and just
right.
You know, UI. But I think like if you go into the portfolio section, like I know you don't have your wallet connected, which I'm not asking you to do, but like that was a big thing for us too. I know we've had a lot of feedback on the wallets when you close out a position, it's still showing there, and then it's not minimizing, and then you're seeing every single thing. So I know we got to do a better job at kind of fixing the UI on that.
And I believe, Andrew, there's literally something in staging for final review right now to fix that stuff. So.
Yeah, I apologize too. That
No,
was,
it's okay. No.
Last week for a conference, and been a busy week so far. But
yeah, absolutely. That was one. Yeah.
We'll get there. I know he's adjusted some of the stuff too, and like if you just click on a pool, like even at the top, it was before some of the pools were showing the rewards per 7 days. Some of them were rewards per 30. So it's just having balance from that perspective, making sure that everything is essentially the same. So that's good.
We fixed some UI stuff, like there was a bar down here. Like there's some minor UI stuff that was fixed. And so a lot of it's been community feedback too that you guys have taken and ran with. So it's great.
Yep. Yeah. Boo, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just from what Derek was saying there about what's in staging at the moment. So Hello's introduced the subscribed, unsubscribed, and closed tabs. Obviously, that's going to be potentially going live soon. So there was some feedback from the community that when you have closed positions, they were cluttering up the screen. And I mentioned it too on the last call. So that's in progress, and hopefully that should be live soon. But that's ready to go to QA, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially on that note, I was just going to say, like, we'll continue to, improve things as we go. Again, the community feedback has been great. Let's continue that. We love hearing from everybody and their thoughts and opinions about it. And then kind of take it from there. I know we'll eventually, as you see kind of TELx top left, you got pools, portfolio, about. Eventually, we will link the TELx University, essentially, right there, Derek, where you're putting the mouse there. I don't know if we want to share what the site of the TELx University looks like just yet, but I guess that's a good segue into the next agenda item.
You're preempting me, Andrew. That's exactly what I was going to say. This is an excellent link into our TELx University update.
From that perspective, like I said, I know I don't think I'm just hearing some feedback. Derek, if you don't mind muting your mic. So again, I apologize. I haven't been diving in too much in the last couple of weeks, just with work going on. So there's not too much to update. I know Zach has been reaching out with a couple of emails, just kind of finalizing a few things with the details. Ty, I don't know if you've had a chance to go through all the videos on the beginner module or not, but I know essentially from like the video script and the content, like that's been fully reviewed. Once that was ready to go, essentially what Zach was going to do was put that into production, start getting those videos going, and then we want to review those before we formally launch the initial module, which is going to be that beginner one, which is going to go very basics into DeFi, all that kind of stuff, liquidity pools, impermanent loss, all that kind of stuff. So it's very retail focused on those non-crypto native people to try to bridge that knowledge gap to get them excited about potentially taking their finances and putting it in their own hands, and putting it to work, and not just putting it in a saving account where you're getting 0.5% from the bank, where at least this way you can get upwards of 5, 10, 15, 20, depending on which pools you decide to go in. But yeah, Ty, I don't know if you want to comment on it.
Yeah, no, I have. I've gone through all the videos. In general, they're working really well, and they are performing to the scripts that we've worked on. There are some instances where there are kind of AI mispronunciations, and but the overall presentation and the way the courses flow, I think are fantastic. I think it's a great use of AI technology, and I can't wait to get the sign off and get it up on the website and get people's feedbacks on it, because I think I've got a couple of people that I know, I think want to get into liquidity provision, but it's all a bit kind of dark artish, and it's a bit, complicated, and there's lots of things to consider. I think this first module will open the covers, will enlighten a lot of people. So I'm hoping for great things with this, and I really want to see that on the site as soon as possible. I know Zach's saying, is there anything else that needs to happen before that happens? And I know Khalil's been looking at, I think the thing's called Kajabi that does the presentation side
Correct.
of things.
Yep.
So we're really at the stage where we're really just linking in our credentials into Kajabi, and it should be up soon, I would hope, before Christmas. I think that's a nice Christmas present to give folk these courses to review over the holiday period. So yeah, I think we should. I know we've got a meeting scheduled. I think the latest is next week with Storm, but I don't see why we can't progress this on Slack and get some sort of sign off and get it at least, get it launched as soon as we can. That's my feelings on it. I think it's ready. Anybody else?
I'm excited too. I think, Zach put a lot of effort into that on the Storm side of things. Was very impressed with what he went through. And, Ty, I know me, you, and Leo have put a good amount of hours kind of reviewing the content and all that kind of stuff too. So just to echo your sentiment, I'm very excited about the launch of this and to see kind of where it goes, and the feedback from everybody as well. So I think, it's going to be exciting and can't wait.
Cool. I think that's more or less all the topics on the agenda covered. Let's throw open to the wider community. Derek, is there any questions coming in from other channels?
I'm not seeing anything.
Nope.
I just see Dally throwing his love out there and excitement for everything going on. So appreciate you, Dally.
I don't think, cool. Okay, now our next meeting in 2 weeks' time hits Christmas Day morning for me here in New Zealand, so I can confidently say I won't be attending. I know it's Christmas Eve for most of the rest of the world, so I doubt anybody else will be in attendance. They'll all be partying. So I'm loath to actually jump a month away because there is so much going on, that maybe we can bring it forward a couple of days or stretch it a week. What's the general feeling on the time and date of the next meeting?
Well, the challenge there would be that if we push it out a week or try to kick it back a week, that lies on New Year's Eve, or would be New Year's Day for you, Ty. So again, we're kind of in a catch-22 there in those 2 weeks. I think the only option would be if we do it again next week, but to me that seems too quick. I think I'm okay with waiting until the 7th, and if we feel that there is updates that we need to provide, then maybe we could just try to put a newsletter or something together, if that's the case.
next Blue Light said no holidays for Tel. Yeah. No days off.
My vote would be just to skip the next one, and then let's come back refreshed in the new year for the 7th. But that's my opinion.
All right. Everybody else agree with that?
That sounds feasible for the masses, I think.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. You guys do want to do an internal meeting, maybe, or just for the public meeting?
Well, we are specifically talking about this open bi-weekly meeting, Eric. Yeah, I think maybe if we can arrange something at short notice, then maybe that is a good idea, especially given the context of some of the topics discussed earlier on in the meeting. I think there's still some brainstorming and stuff that we need to do to get our kind of direction set. So I'm all for having a spontaneous meeting in the interim, and then we have the community facing meeting on the 7th. So
Would,
yeah, let's
would you guys be open to an internal call next week then? We can do that.
Leo has scheduled a meeting, I think, with Storm to introduce David on a week today at this time. So, you know, where the time of the TELx meeting is, it's a internal Storm meeting to introduce David. And
yeah, I don't know how much of the community is aware, but now that the cat's kind of out of the bag, just to let everybody know that Hermias has left Storm Partners. So obviously we'll have a new person coming in, and obviously we got to get them up to speed on everything. So
yeah, thanks. I didn't know if that was kind of public or not, Andrew. So
well, it is now.
Okay, no, that's cool. All right, so date of the next meeting. Last chance for any of the community to chip in with questions or shows of love, or
yeah. While we're waiting for that, I'll shamelessly plug the Telfan chats tomorrow. So Steve and I will be on at 8 p.m. talking anything and everything Telcoin for those who want to grab maybe a festive drink and join us. So that'll be on Spaces, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
All right. Well, as long as you guys can get your referral code sorted out and you don't bicker,
I don't think we'll ever get.
You're not going to bicker, then that's fine.
That's part of the fun, though. So for those of you who aren't going to be able to attend that, Merry Christmas to everybody. All the best in the new year. I think 2026 is going to be a great year, you know, for Telcoin, for everybody that's in this community. I'm very excited, you know, to see, you know, how we progress, not just, you know, the Telcoin Bank, the ecosystem, the network, TELx, everything encompassing. I think 2026 is going to be a huge year. So just wish everybody the best during the holiday season, and a very prosperous 2026.
Wow, very, very well said. And just a final note to the council members: there's a few documents that have been shared by several of us onto the shared drive. There was a kind of work in progress thing on a vault that Boo had done. There was Eric's comments. There was the budget that we've not really talked about, but the TELx Council Safe. I updated the financials, so there's a total there as to how much is remaining in that safe. There's my high-level distribution and pool document floating around. So there's stuff there that we can do with some feedback on if people have some time. And that flow diagram that they drew up as well is very helpful. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we can carry forward in TELx. So in between partying and hangovers, guys, let's keep the workflow happening. All right.
There's no time off.
All right. Well, everybody have a happy holiday, and we'll catch you back online in the new year.
Thanks everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.